Hey guys, Mr. Lloyd here. Going to work with you today on Monday, May 18th. On this video, we'll be going over the page you see on the screen. It's just got math here starting about the second half of the page. And then I'll work on the challenge problems as well. So let's get into it. Last week when we left off, we were exploring the concepts of mean and median. So we were taking data sets and we were using these two tools that we have in statistics called mean and median to better make sense or better understand our data. And today what we're going to get into a little bit is one more tool that we use to understand data called range. And range is a fairly simple concept. It's a really important concept, but it's a fairly straightforward one. It's just about the variability in the data set. But let's get started solving these here. Let me just zoom into the page and we'll work our way down. So this is just a quick sort of reminder of what we finished off last week with. It says if I wanted to level the numbers 18, 24, and 30, I would subtract 6 from 30 and add it to 18, so the mean would be 24. And this is just another method to find mean when you have a small data set. You can probably see the patterns here. These are all multiples of 6. And so if they take 6 from 30 and add it to 24, taking 6 from 30 gives you 24. Adding 6 to 18 gives you 24, and then of course 24 remain the same. So that's the mean. Of course, we could add 18, 24, and 30 all together, divide them by 3, so we get 72 divided by 3, that would give us 24. So just showing you a different method there to find the mean. But again, the mean is 24, whichever method you choose. All right, and then here we're looking at the mean and the median of these data as well. Let's continue on to the next page. And what we're going to be working on today is this concept of range. And range is just a measure of variability. It's just when we're looking at data, if you look down here, this is probably the easiest with this example. So this is the challenge problem. I recorded the ages of people in my family, just sent some text messages out, made a couple guesses. And this is just that, or I ordered them just based on the responses I got. So one person in my family was 36, another person was 11, another 34, one person was 61 years old, and so on and so forth. So I just write them down initially in the order that I get them, which is kind of a random order. There's no, it doesn't go greatest to least, it doesn't go least to greatest, it's just kind of random. However, when I'm looking to find the range, the important thing, I really just need two important things. I need the oldest or the highest number, in my case, the oldest person's age, and then the youngest or the lowest number, so highest to lowest. And all we have to do to find the range is one very simple calculation. We just do a quick subtraction. So 63 minus 9 is 54. So we would say the range of my data set is 54. In other words, the ages range from 9 to 63, or there's 54 years in between the youngest and the oldest person in my family. The range, of course, will change. The actual value of the range will change with each set of data we're looking at. So your answer to this challenge problem obviously will be different from mine. That's okay. That's expected. But just remember, range is variability. If you do highest to lowest, subtract, and there you have it. Okay, simple enough concept. Let's take you through then the work for, I think it's page 339 here. And we're just going to calculate the range for a couple different data sets here. So let's take a look. We always want to read, what are we looking at? This little text up here gives us an explanation. So Jayla and Sophie are members of a 6th grade basketball team. The dot plots below show the number of points scored by each player during their first 10 games of the season. So let's look at Jayla's first. Jayla's, boy, it's nice and symmetrical. I like this. Immediately I can tell where the median is without even having to calculate anything. This is a nice data set. It's just nice to look at. So Jayla had one game where she scored 2 points, 2 games where she scored 3 points, 4 games where she scored 4 points, 2 games where she scored 5, and 1 game where she scored 6 points. So the range is a single number that summarizes the variability. You can calculate the range by subtracting the least from the greatest. So let's look. If we're taking Jayla's range, we're looking at her the game where she scored the most points, which is 6, and the game where she scored the least points, which is which is 2, and then 6 minus 2, of course, is 4. So that's Jayla's range. Let's come over here and let's look at Sophie's. Sophie had two games where she scored 0 points, one game where she scored 1 point, one game with 3 points, one game with 4 points, one game with 5 points, 2 with 6 points, one game with 7 points, and one game with 8 points. So the largest game, or the game where she scored the largest number of points, was 8 points, and then her lowest score was 0 points. So 8 minus 0, of course, is 8. So calculating the range, pretty simple. We're just doing a quick little subtraction. We just need to know which is the greatest, which is the least, and there you have it. Okay. And then mean and median for each of these girls as well. So I did Jayla's in green here, and I just take all of her scores, and you can see I add them all together inside my parentheses. And there were 10 total games that we're calculating, so I'm dividing by 10. Remember, I always do the operation in parentheses first. Add all those numbers together, I get 40 divided by 10. 40 divided by 10 equals 4. So the mean for Jayla's data is 4. Pretty straightforward there. Same calculation for Sophie. I just did it in the red pen here. And so we do the same thing. We add 0 and 0. Whoops. Add 0 plus 0 plus 1 plus 3 and so on and so forth. So all her scores also happens to equal 40. And then we divide by 10 as well because she played 10 games as well. And we get a mean of 4 for Sophie. Okay. The median for Jayla and the median for Sophie are down here. Remember, with median, all we have to do is line them up from smallest to largest and then find the middle point. So for Jayla, I lined them up smallest to largest, and the median is right here in between the two 4s, which would just be, of course, 4. So Jayla's median is 4. And then the median for Sophie, line them up from smallest to largest, and the median is right in here between 4 and 5. And the way we find that number that's exactly in between 4 and 5 is that we add 4 and 5, and we divide by 2, and it's 4.5. Maybe you knew that 4.5 is exactly halfway between these two. That's great, but if you need to calculate it to verify, that's your method. Okay? So there we have it. We've now calculated, let's just zoom out real quick here before we finish this paper off. So we've now looked at the data set for Jayla, the data set for Sophie, and we've calculated the range for each, the mean for each, and the median for each. So 3 different things: mean, median, and range is what we worked on today. The last couple are just some explainer questions. So number 3 asks you, suppose we calculated the mean and median for different players. And it's asking, would the numbers be the same as Jayla's, or the same as Sophie, or would it change? And the answer is, it just totally depends on what these other players are scoring. Some people might play a basketball game and they might score 0 points per game, which means that their mean would be different from either Jayla's or Sophie's. Somebody else might play and score 5 points per game, and so their mean would be different as well. Same thing with the median. It just depends on whose data it is and what the values of the data are. So that's it. We just have to understand that data sets, because data sets have different sets of values, the mean and median for the data sets will be distinct, different. Okay. Number 4 asks, one more quick explainer. All 3 measures, mean, median, and range, describe the data in some way. What does the range tell you about the data? Well, again, if you couldn't remember how to answer this, you could go back to the packet, and it tells you it gives you a perfect explanation. Range is a measure of variability, how spread out the data is. Looking at my ages, how spread out are the ages in my family? Okay, let's look back here at the scores. How spread out are the scores of a basketball game? That's what range tells us. Variability, or how spread out there is in the data, how much spread there is in the data. Okay, all right, that is all the time I'm gonna do for this video. So this is just gonna be one video here for May 18th, Monday. Please keep the questions coming through YouTube comments, through Google Classroom. Zoom meetings are a great place to ask questions. Text, remind, email, phone call, lots of different ways to get in touch. So let's keep it coming. Keep working hard on your math out there, guys, and I will see you later. Thanks. Bye.